is that a large portion of these deposits in Ukraine are in Russian-occupied areas. Estimates place up to 40% of Ukraine's metal resources under Russian control. This is all in the red right here. In fact, the largest rare earth deposit is right here in the gray. It spans the front line of the highly contested Donetsk region. Russian President Vladimir Putin says his country is open to economic cooperation with the U.S. on rare earth minerals, and he added a deal could be reached on these Russian-occupied areas.
You use the Roku to turn the TV off?
Yeah.
Those are all things.
Sound is a little weird.
The rapidly evolving negotiations continue as Russia unleashed another night.
All right.
Okay.
So, what we're going to talk about is body posture, body language. Nope. So, what we're going to do is we're going to basically go over the whole claiming principle.
Okay.
99% of all of communication that happens amongst dogs, if not 100, is done through body posture and observing one's body language.
So not the way you say it.
It's not, well, I mean, it's not that doesn't have something to add to the equation, but it's not the information itself. The information that the dog receives is mostly by the body language until we teach them how to understand other things.
Gotcha.
But whenever you talk about dogs communicating with other dogs, that's how that works. So
That
like
makes sense.
whenever they do it, it's not, they add volume when they need to add emphasis, but not necessarily, but they also can use just as much emphasis with their body language.
Okay.
You know, because I mean, if I'm trying to tell you something and I'm telling you like this and everything, or I'm telling you like this,
Yeah, it means two totally
completely
different
different
things.
things. So what we'll do is we're gonna give her a good reason. She might, given yesterday, and the fact that we already kind of.
Dude, I've been implementing. It's been 9 days from yesterday.
It doesn't
It's
take that,
amazing.
it doesn't take that much. So what? Come on.
Come on.
All right. Well, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get you off the couch. Get off the couch. Come on. Off the couch. Come on. So, nope. Right. So you see the marker. What she was doing was just paying attention to the tissues. I use that nope word, which I don't know if you guys have gotten a whole lot of opportunity to use that yet.
So I switched from no to no.
Yeah, which is it's fine, but I mean, just in general, if you've already done no, the dog's not going to hear a whole lot of difference. So the difference happens in your head,
Exactly.
more so than theirs. But so whenever I want to communicate to her that I don't want her to be a part of this situation to deal with this, what I'm going to do, actually, the other dog might be the better.
You want to use it for something?
Yeah, she might be the better way to do this because so what I want to do is I want to communicate to her that this dog deserves all the respect that she gives me. Right? And the way that I did that is I'm claiming. So I'm putting some extension of me, which in this case the stick, and I use the stick really primarily because it is obvious what I'm doing.
Right.
Whenever I use it, it's more illustrative to you guys. It does actually add a little bit of emphasis to the situation, but really in general it's mostly useful to me because you guys see what it is that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So like just like her, this one jumps on me. If I want to apply the same thing, I'm going to give a little dissuasion.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's putting the thing that they don't want between them and what it is that they're doing that I don't want them to do. Right?
As
So
opposed
it's
to, like,
really
the
just a
leg.
clarity instrument. And it extends my reach. Because if I want you to stay away from me, I can keep you away from me.
Right. You can
If I also want to tell you don't go that way, I don't have, and I can't use my words. I can just do this.
You can block.
Right. And so we're gonna talk about that. So whenever it comes down to the tissues, which she doesn't seem to be, she doesn't seem to.
She only gets
care
into
about
them after she's gone through her toys and she's like, okay, I'm bored with those. Now I'm gonna go get into some naughtiness.
Right. And sometimes you're gonna have those situations where they do it whenever you're not looking. And so like we were talking about potty training and stuff the other day. One of the spiels that I didn't get into is when the dog goes in the other room and goes to the bathroom, we don't catch them in the moment. What ends up happening is the dog gets to understand the idea that I'm not allowed to potty in front of the people.
Right.
And that's the way they think it's being communicated, because that's how it works out. Because if I go in the other room and I potty, I come back out and everything's fine and dandy. And then later on, for some reason that doesn't seem connected, the humans get mad and they use the poop to correct me because of all of these different things that I'm doing, and I don't know how to connect the dots. Because you're not doing it for that reason. They just think that that's what's going on.
She picked up on it pretty quick.
So here's what we'll use instead. Since she doesn't seem to care about these things, we're going to teach her not to be on the couch for today.
Cool.
Just for today, right? And so, nope. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to shoo her away from the couch. Good girl. Good girl. And so it's just clarity. This would be the same thing as if she was barking at the window. Is I'm going to take a bit of something that she doesn't, that she feels uncomfortable with, right? And I'm going to place it in between. I'm going to use it to claim the situation. Claiming is always putting something of you in between what they are and what they want to have, right? And so if I'm claiming this, I can do it with my body,
right?
And this is clear. So stay with
Makes
my,
sense.
stay with
It's
my,
a barrier.
Stay with my junk. That's it.
Right. It's my shit.
Right. And so that stuff becomes very clear. But we get to do it all the time. And what it does, whenever we have the respect from the dog, it has the ability to pass that respect on to whatever it is that we're claiming. Because this is not just tissues now. These are my tissues.
Right.
And so they need all the respect that you give me.
Makes sense.
Right? And that just translates. It just works. It comes across. Now, there are some dogs that are of enough spirit that they will be like, okay, well, in the meantime, when you're standing here close, I'm willing to leave it alone.
Right.
But as soon as you walk away, it's not yours anymore. And so that's where we continue to gain in the respect that the dog has for us. And then those things tend to last longer and longer. They also depend on how consistent you are. Because if you continue to claim this thing and then leave the room and go and expect it to work 100% right off the bat, so you stretch this out like a rubber band.
Right.
Because otherwise, if it's not really truly understood from the beginning, then they're going to come back and they'll be like, oh, it's not theirs anymore, because they're not possessing it. You know,
makes sense. Yeah, no, it makes sense.
And so that's going to be the same thing with the door. It's going to be the same thing with the dogs. It's going to be the same thing with anything you don't want her to deal with. All of the no factor that I add to any dog training program is just postural stuff.
Gotcha.
Because the reason I like it, and some people get all stirred up about it because they're like, oh, this is, like you're menacing the dog, and it's just like, sure, fine, whatever. If that's the way you want it, if you're that sensitive, that's fine. But what they don't understand is that it's clarity. And it's something that the dog absolutely does not have to be trained to understand this language. Right. So might as well speak a language that they can understand right off the bat. And then and the anxiety drops so precipitously when the dog understands. And we discussed yesterday that anxiety is the same thing as pain to the dog's brain. So you're actually doing a massive kindness by resisting the dog in a way that they can understand, as opposed to waiting till they do something wrong and screaming at them, which they don't understand. Right. Or running up and smacking them too late because you couldn't catch them by the time they were still doing the thing that was wrong.
Right.
And now they don't understand.
Smack them for no reason.
Right. And so, but if we have the ability, we can make these things super clear. And so, if I want her to get off the steps, I can, I could just come up. I could just quietly come up the stairs. Come here. I don't have to be. Come here, girl.
Come here, Amy.
Come on. If I want to come, I become smaller. Because there's less
scared
intimidating than it is also an invitation. Girl, what a good girl you are. All right, let's go downstairs. Come on.
Come on, baby.
And so if I don't want her to go up the stairs, then I can, it doesn't matter. If I don't want her to go up the stairs, then I'm just going to climb the stairs. Yeah. And then if I do that with enough consistency, then she starts to understand that nope always precedes whenever I'm dissuading her from doing something. And so eventually it gets to the point where I say, nope. You see how I just broke the moment from whenever I said it and whenever I moved?
Yeah.
That's one of the things we want to think about whenever we're dealing with dogs, because of this, because this timing thing See the thinking?
She's learned to fake out.
Nope.
She's good at fake. When we do the game, she's
Did you just catch that though?
yeah.
I said it and she backed away in that moment because she's understanding what I'm noting for now because I did it 2, 3, 4, nope, 4 or 5 times in a row. And now I said it and it registered even though I didn't move.
Right.
Now that doesn't mean that it's 100% done or anything.
Right,
but
she understands in the moment. What
She
you're
knows
at-
that
what
she
you're
knows
saying.
that that's why these things are being said. She's picking it up. She's in the process of getting it figured.
Yeah.
Right? So she really wants to go up there because she feels safer up there.
Of course.
It feels like she can rest up there because she doesn't know what I'm all
Well,
about.
he stays
yet.
home during the day, so that's why that's her area during the day. So that's her safe spot, right?
Right, and she can keep an eye on everything. It's just where she feels the most confident, and that's fine.
Right.
She can do that. In this moment, I want interaction with her,
Right.
and she has a little nope. Good girl.
Good girl.
So now, as she goes away from it, I do go ahead and tell her that she's a good girl because at the moment when she was trying, she was aiming up the stairs.
Right.
I know because that's what I want. I don't want you to try to go up the stairs. And then as soon as she relinquishes and tries to go the other way, is the instant that she gives up on that idea that she's now understood what it is that I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I want to reinforce it. Like that's the good thing. Like that's what I was at. That's what I was asking for. You
So,
be here.
so we had a moment last night where she was outside and there was a turd on the ground, right?
Uh-huh.
She went for the turd. I said no. She still went for it, so I got in between her, said no. She backed off. I said, good girl. She went for it again. I said no. She backed off. I said, good girl. So I was just reinforcing the.
And that idea of being able to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth is something that is really excellent in training.
It was
because
awesome.
dogs live in that small moment, so you don't want to. You can be really bipolar with your conversations.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you can go.
it feels odd as, from a human
You
perspective.
can be like, no. Okay, yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, that's great.
Right.
Right. Bipolar people actually do really well with dogs.
Oh, I bet.
So it's a normal thing in the animal kingdom because animals are reactive.
Yeah.
Right. So
Well, and then to finish my thing. So later, she went for it, did it, and then towards the end, we were out there for like 30 minutes. Towards the end, she was just walking right by it. Wouldn't even give it a second of thought. She knew it was no.
If the negative that you're adding to the situation, which might even just be your disapproval,
Right.
like it might just
That's
be your
it.
disapproval.
Yeah.
If that is enough to her, plus it's done really hyper consistently, you can have that behavior change. Now, I want you to be thinking about the idea of what happens whenever you take her out and you don't go out there with her.
As of right now, I mean.
As of right now, like the chances
You're right.
that she's going to go back to it, and then the rule doesn't become leave the poop alone. The rule becomes
Leave it
don't
alone,
eat
not
it in
out
front
there.
of dad.
Exactly.
And that's not
That's not
exactly
what
what
we
we're trying to get at.
Exactly.
Right? And so we want our clarity to be maximized. And so that's really the biggest thing that I teach is I just teach people how to speak dog very clearly. And then they never have any problems because dogs want to do what they want. They want to do what people want them to do.
Oh yeah.
They're a pack animal, number one, and number two,
They live for
they've
their own
attached
approval.
to human beings for all of human history.
There's no reason why, right?
Yeah. And we do have a very similar social dynamic between dogs and humans, and so that's why it works out so well. So
Good girl.
that's good. So what you were doing out there can only really be improved in that particular moment. Can only really be improved by employing also the body language. Now, what I want you to get in the habit is we speak first, then act. So whenever I say the NOPE, I'll say it, and then if she doesn't immediately change her behavior in the way that I would, that it acknowledges that she knows what I want, then I will start to show her with my body language. And if she says, I see what you want and I'm not going to do it, then that's whenever I have to get a little more serious with her. But prior to that, we don't go right to the point of assuming that they're disobeying. Most of the time, whenever a dog does the wrong thing, it's just because they don't understand.
It's like with your dad. When your dad would say no, and then you would keep doing it. You take the step. Then if you didn't stop it,
And the trickiest part with that is because I've got this 2.5-year-old, not even 2.5-year-old daughter and everything, and she's just sharp as a whip. And I speak like this with her, and I play these games, and I kind of communicate in this nonverbal way in a lot of. I do it as well as the verbal, just because that's who I am now. And now she's started to understand the game.
Gotcha.
Right, and so now we're going to have to get into human communication where it's like, now we need to know when this is not a game.
Right.
How do you, and so,
That's kind of what
and
we're
it's
at.
weird because I take absolutely the dog training thing. It's like, I have to institute, even with a toddler, this is what games look like.
Right.
This is what it looks like when we're not playing games. Right?
Makes
And
sense.
so that's also where a bipolar person tends to do very well raising kids as well, because I know I was raised by one. You know? And the idea is that it's like you come in and everything's good, and you start behaving one way and everything's good and everything, you come back in and the situation has completely changed. They will react very over the top with it. They'll be very clear and a little bit harsh and maybe a little bit manic about it or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh crap, I didn't know.
Right.
Now that goes out the window when they don't actually understand what they want,
Okay.
which will happen.
That makes sense.
So the same thing with humans is like if we are very bipolar with our dogs, we either A, are going to have a dog that knows what it is that we want because we're super clear, or they're going to have no clue what they want because we are erratic and unpredictable, and it makes them anxious.
Right.
So when we are focusing on the clarity, that solves both of those problems.
Yeah.
It's like
Makes
be as dramatic as you feel like you feel comfortable with being. I don't really care. That doesn't bother me a ton. But what I want you to do is be clear about it and actually know what the heck you want.
Right.
That's
That's the goal.
well, and that's almost everybody's problem in life. I mean, I struggle with knowing exactly what it is that I want. And my wife catches me on it all the time. She's like, you told me that this is what you want, and now I'm sitting here griping about it and everything. She's like, and I'm like, and I'm getting to the point now where I'm realizing that I just don't have any freaking clue about myself.
Right. You don't know what you want.
Like, I don't
Right.
even
Exactly.
know what I'm aiming for. So that makes me sit down and figure out what it is, which is why leading a dog is so good for us.
Yeah, I agree.
It was funny, I saw your brother out there walking her, and I was just like, dude, that looks just like the dog I'm going to see. And everything. And I was like, can I pet the dog? And I was like, I'm going to train a dog like this. He's like, oh, you Luke? And everything. I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, what dog are you going to train? I'm like, that one.
That one.
I was like, I figured it out. It's that one. You know? But,
Yeah. Him looking like me. I hope didn't give away too quickly.
you guys do look a little bit alike. Your beard is significantly redder and
Very
bigger,
much red.
and
He's
so
got
it,
more of the brownish red. I've got the reddish red. Right.
It didn't stand out immediately, but as soon as he
Plus,
mentioned
he's
it,
got
as
glasses.
soon as he mentioned it, I was just like, oh yeah, there it is.
He's pale. I'm not.
So that's the big takeaway for the training thing. Now another thing that I did, so like whenever I was at when I was in dog training school, we stayed in this little house, and I had all my dogs in the house. Hi. We had all my dogs in the house, and so what I would do is we'd cook dinner and everything. We'd eat dinner, and then I would take my plate and I would set it on the floor in the middle of the living room with 3 dogs running.
Oh, to see if they went for it.
And if they went for it, then I would mark no. I would claim it in whatever way is necessary. Everything, and I would do that for 10 or 15 minutes every day because that plate is very valuable.
Exactly.
And now,
She's very food. She's a food whore.
Now that is me trying to perfect the maximum end of the skill. 3
Right.
dogs, all high drive dogs.
At once, right? I bet
At
that.
once, tiny little room with the giant plate of food on the floor.
You've
And
got
everything.
big
That's
dogs, too.
maximum. That's max. Hey, watch your mouth. That's maximum difficulty. Now, what I want you to think about is what you're doing with her is not testing whether or not you're good enough. What you're doing with her is growing understanding with her from the beginning.
Right.
So
You can't jump to that
don't
either,
expect
right.
don't go for the hardest thing right off the bat. When every day I came home from school and I'm like, this is what we learned about it and everything. She's like, oh, let's take Cinch out there and see if he can do it and test him, everything. And I'm like,
It's not gonna work like that.
no, you don't test first.
Right.
You don't start off by taking the final.
Right. Exactly.
You start off by
You don't
doing the
take
class.
intro to car mechanics and you think you can rebuild.
Yeah, and then
rebuild a 47 Chevy.
Yeah, and then
Right.
go work on an S2000 and think you can make it better. You know, and
Yeah.
so but that's the idea. So keep that in mind whenever you're implementing these things. It's like what we want to do is if your dog will submit to you on the small things consistently, in regular old moments and everything about things that are really small, Like they matter to them, but they're really small issues. Then whenever it comes for a bigger issue to happen, they get in the habit of that subservient idea. And so start with small things and
Build your way up.
So like little things like dealing with the door, like how to deal with door manners. Like that's a big
huge.
deal.
Right.
And it's no big deal for anybody else. The excitement is very high, but the actual deal of whether they stepped through the door before you or after you is really in their mind. They don't understand why. They don't understand why it's a big deal. But you make a big deal out of it and say this is what I expect and everything, and then you stand your ground on it. If they will start to adhere to that and put aside their emotions of excitement to run through the door, then you have, and they'll submit to you on that. Then when it comes down to them not going after a dog, and you can just say nope, they're more likely to be, they're building that ability to conquer their emotions. So we always start that with smaller things, and then grow them up. But that goes as fast as it goes. So if it's going well, don't pump the brakes out of caution. Go ahead and start doing it, but just do it. But just do it with more repetitions. If you feel like it's going too fast, then hit it a bunch of times as you're going fast, and then get yourself to a point where you feel comfortable with it, and then keep it there for a while, and make it the rhythm, the usual thing.
Right.
And so like if it's a matter of like don't touch the food plate, so keep doing it even after it's easy.
Yeah,
because
makes sense.
It's
repetition, consistency. We're going back to the point from yesterday.
Absolutely. By the way, I tried to put that up there, and I went from 100% battery down to like 22 before the thing was even.
Oh, that's fine. I was about to ask,
so I'm gonna have
what's
to-
your name on it again?
I'm gonna send you a link.
That's perfect.
I'm gonna send you a link to all of it.
Perfect.
But so anyway, it will be up, and I just hit some technical difficulties because
I'm not worried.
I did it one time on my phone, and it went real smooth. But I guess I was in a different kind of service area.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, since she was a rescue, she's one of those dogs. Like when I take her out, I've got to be out there. She's not like. Kind of towards now, we can open the door and she'll go out. But she, like, if I take her out in the front yard, especially, backyard's a little different because it's fenced in. She's getting more comfortable going out doing it herself. But if I go out in the front yard, she stays with me, which I love. But she's got that nervousness about her where she's like, I'm staying close to Pop because I don't know the area.
So my pit bull was also. I mean, he lived the first 11 months of his life in the shelter, in his own little room by himself and everything like that. And his only motivation in his life is to be loved by somebody,
right?
And to be close to people and everything. And so when you get that, and especially with little bullies, because bullies are social dogs more so than a lot of dogs, and so you get that a lot of times. But that is exactly how I teach puppies. Like I teach if I'm raising a puppy from 8 weeks old, I will not. I actually don't put leashes on. I'm not suggesting that for anybody else, but that's because I understand the body language and the movement and the push pull that happens with the social interaction, and I focus on that social interaction so much. But I will use the leash of their dependency on me as the way to teach them to walk with me.
That makes sense.
I'll spend a day or two, and I'm just kind of holding them all the time and keeping them with me and everything, and loving on them and making life good and everything. And then I start setting them down, and then at some point I start just getting up and walking away.
Let's see what
as soon as they can really identify me well enough that they're like, I see you, I know who you are, I want to be with you and everything, then I start removing myself more quickly than they want me to, and they go, no, come back.
Yeah.
And then do you have a dog that walks?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and it can be that easy and that straightforward if you're the kind of person that does what I talk about. And like when I talk about these things, I talk about them in terms of let's change the way that we react to life in general, so that when we encounter dog, period, they all respond to us.
Yeah. And
so like all the dogs respond to me the same way. I mean, eventually, like it starts from different points and it takes a longer time to get there. But with any dog, if they came and lived with me, they would eventually migrate to the same kind of temperament.
Right.
Because I'm consistent with the way that I react to dogs. Plain and simple. So the same thing with like the spatial thing that we talked about yesterday. It's my rule for myself that I treat myself with enough value that they don't get to get in my space unless I invite them. And it doesn't matter how I feel about it. It doesn't matter whether I want it or not. That's what I do. And now because I've become that, dogs treat me with a certain respect.
Right.
You know, and you'll get that same thing from people who don't even know these things. They just do it because it's what they want. They actually feel that way, and then they have the same. They have the same experience with almost all dogs.
Yeah, makes sense.
So claiming, you can use claiming for absolutely everything.
Good.
The trick you'll have with her is that she's a sensitive dog, and she does not need almost any pressure before she starts to get. Is the way that I'm seeing it. That's the way she's treating me, at least at this point.
Well, I'd say you're pretty spot on with that.
Yeah, it seems like that's her temperament or that her disposition, but that's the way she's doing with me, at least. So, what you'll be able to do is you can start to tone down. So you take the idea of like no as maximum, and then hey as a little bit less, and then
right
as a little bit less, and then this is a little bit less, and then
it's a look, right?
Yeah, and so you can. There's always a scale. You can slide it down, and your job as a trainer, as a dog communicator, is always to aim for the minimal necessary intensity.
Gotcha. So start
all
low.
the time.
Gotcha.
It's always, and it's not work from the bottom up. It's not like start at the bottom and work your way up. It's get to know the dog well enough, because you'll mess it up a couple times, and sometimes you'll do something and it's not enough, and so you up it. But you kind of keep track of what kind of intensity is needed for
Situation.
the dog, for the situation, and then of course we don't forget about what is the situation going to become. That's that motivation.
Right.
Those three for the motivation, because you the first two will become very normal and natural in your daily life and everything. But you'll have, and even in your non-daily life, the strange incidences that you go into, all of a sudden the dog starts running, trying to snarl at a dog across the street. Step up and speak firmly. You know, like
Right.
you serious.
Take
about
charge.
it. This is not allowed. Absolutely not. No way. No how. But whenever they're just jumping on somebody in friendliness, that's where we got to make sure that we're keeping track of what could it become.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
it's like if they're going to scratch the mayor whenever they come to visit.
Right. Or
It's
if
not what we want.
when the
know,
baby
business
walks in,
partner.
is it gonna jump on the baby?
Yeah,
We
is the
can't
baby
have
going to
that.
get knocked over? We don't deal with that. And so if you're being rambunctious around my infant, you know, I got a 1-month-old infant, and if I had the dogs out around the 1-month-old infant and they are like jumping around and playing and everything, they'll catch a jab with the stick.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And it's not because they're a horrible, bad, awful dog.
No, it's respecting
I'm telling you what I want, but I'm also telling you how serious it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the intensity does. Now, I will encourage you to keep vocal intensity to the minimum as much as possible, because you save that for your very last answer.
Gotcha.
If you don't have a leash, if you don't have a stick, if you don't have the ability to use your body to communicate any of these things, and your dog is completely out of control and you need them to hear you, you want that to be the first time they've ever heard you raise your voice.
Gotcha.
Or the first time in a while, at least.
Right.
Right? Because if you're hollering every day, I mean, like everybody's been to Walmart and seen some mom that is just hollering at her kids, and the kids do not care.
Listen, right.
And that's because mom's always hollering and it never means anything.
Right.
Right? Same
Well, that's what I
same
kind of
thing
noticed with
dads.
her.
Don't care. It's not about moms, but I mean, like that's the way that it pops up in my mind. So that's what we want to keep in mind. We will always want to use the minimal necessary vocalization. And so my notes are the same every single time. Nope, 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 nope.
Yeah.
It's no matter what the situation
Consistency.
is. When my dog takes off to go attack another dog, nope, and everything, and the dog actually hears me when I say it like that. But if I'm like, no, I'm just barking.
You're right. She's not. They're not digesting what you're saying.
That and
You talking to me?
No.
Okay.
No, that was me. The other thing about it is dogs only use vocal. Dogs don't use vocal to say anything. What they do is they use vocal to announce, here I am, and this is the energy they have. So if you walk through a neighborhood, you'll hear one dog bark that's like,
Right.
That dog's excited. It's high, it's rhythmic, it's I want to interact with you.
It's the dog behind the
I'm
fence.
happy, hey, look at
Right.
me. but it's really just here I am and I'm happy and excited.
Yeah.
You know, now you walk down that same street and everything, you run into the dog, it's like, "Arr! Arr! Arr!" You know, that kind of thing. It's erratic and it's low register for that dog. And that means I'm feeling very anxious about your presence.
Right.
Here I am and look at how erratic I am. And that's all they're saying.
Yeah.
They're not saying, oh, there's a man over there.
That's
It's
how
here
they-
I am and this is my state of mind. This is my state of being.
That makes
That's
sense.
all you use vocalization for. So when the dog gets ready to go chase the squirrel or the other dog or whatever, and you go, no, 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 no. You're just barking.
Right.
You're just barking, hey, we're all excited.
Right.
And the dog goes, all right, get excited. And then they
and you're feeding it.
But I want to think about my energy, that because all I'm doing with my vocals is communicating my energy until they understand a word, because I've programmed it.
Yeah.
But until they understand a word, I want to think of my voice only as a communication of my energy. And if you have dominance over a dog in any way, shape, or form, their energy will seek to match yours.
Okay.
If you come into a situation, the dog's like, yeah, whoa, holy cow, this is great and everything, and you just stand steady, that dog will like, okay, this is not, okay, what is it?
Immediately chills out,
Okay.
right?
And then that you'll even see that like the chest will start to collapse, the tail will tuck in and everything, and they'll just become
Right.
quiet like you because you're steady and still, so they'll mimic it. Same thing with your kids. Like when you're dealing with kids,
Very true.
if they're freaking out, just don't freak out with them.
Right.
You know? Caesar Milan tells a story about a Dane, right, that is absolutely nuts about slick, shiny floors,
Uh-huh.
right? And as soon as it sees it, it says, F no, I'm not doing it, period, right? And because one day the dog ran in there and it slid across the floor and it ran against the wall. But that's not the story. The story is not, if the dog would have been if another dog would have been with them in that situation, the dog would have come over and they would have gone, well, you're not bleeding internally. And they would have walked away calmly, right? But what
The
had
owner freaked out.
what had happened is the owner went, oh, you know, and
Right.
and like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Are you okay?
Made the situation 10 times worse.
Yeah, it's like the meme that's out there is like the two guys are standing there talking and everything, and the kid's out there playing. He's like, oh yeah, buddy, and everything, and then all of a sudden a meteor comes and crashes on the kid, and then the friend is like, oh my god, he's like, wait for it, right? And then all of a sudden the kid comes crawling out of the crater and says, dang, I got hit by a meteor, and he's like, yeah, buddy, that's crazy. And then, and everything's fine. Because kids, whenever they get hurt, they don't actually cry.
Right,
They
they don't.
look at you to see whether they should feel a certain way. And if you react with stability, it breathes stability in them. And they realize that they encounter the emotion, and they realize, because of the signals, that the emotion is not actually as big a deal as it is. And so therefore, it deprioritizes their brain from having great amygdala reactions,
Yeah.
fear-based reactions to these feelings that they're going to experience from time to time.
That's
And then you end
interesting.
up having a resilient dog, a resilient kid emotionally. But if you treat them like it's a huge big deal because you want to be such a nice person, making a big deal and feeling like you're super empathetic to your kids, you're gonna create a neurotic kid.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
a-
Well, I
and a
see that with my
neurotic.
cousin's kids because he's got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Mhm.
The 5-year-old jumps off. They were at a theater, right? The theater stage is up, lifted up. The 2-year-old jumps off, hits the ground, falls, laughs, gets up, runs around, does it again. The 5-year-old does it, falls down, and goes, ow, and starts bawling.
Mhm.
Well, it's the difference because his mom ran to the 5-year-old, are you okay? And the 2-year-old, the dad was watching him and thought it was hilarious. Two totally different reactions to the same thing.
And this is a normal male-female dynamic, and females are definitely programmed for that.
Right, they're
Because if you do not recognize the needs of an infant, they die.
100%.
And so we all die if they are not geared that way. The problem is that the
They're too
plight,
geared to it.
the plight of a mother is to necessarily fail. If you're going to be a good mother, you have to fail necessarily. It's absolutely important that you fail at being a good mother.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not actually a good mother.
Yeah.
You have to let go of the protection in order for kids to actually develop properly. And when you have the hovering mother, which is generally a mother, sometimes it's fathers, but generally they're more temperamentally geared towards that 60-40 split. And then the kids will become, they'll have all sorts of problems from having too much care.
Yeah.
Not to mention, whenever we talk about things like narcissism is characterized by the lack of ability to have empathy. And empathy is learned not from receiving empathy. Empathy is learned from needing to give it.
Interesting.
Right? So
Makes sense.
So if you are constantly doting on and caring for whatever individual is underneath you and everything, you are not teaching it to be caring. You're teaching it to be selfish.
Yeah.
You're teaching it to be oblivious of everyone else's feelings, because their feelings have always been the most important thing. And so look at society. There's all sorts of things that are geared to making sure that everybody feels like their feelings are the most important thing right now. And what they're doing is they're creating narcissism in mass.
Oh, yeah.
And they're doing it on purpose, in my opinion. So
well,
I
I agree with you.
I don't care if you don't like it. But but that is
Right.
scientifically what's going on. And there's actually manuals out there of how to do it. In fact, when we do I told you last time, when we do training with police dogs, we absolutely do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Because if you want to create a warrior, you want them to be a narcissist.
Right. You want them to go into any situation going, I can handle this. This is, I'm a badass.
Right. And that's
They don't
where
think twice.
stable people understand that you kind of want the narcissist to be the first person in line to fight for you and everything. And people who are narcissists themselves are threatened by that. And there's a big shining glowing example of that running around the world right now. And I'm just not. I don't feel the need to.
Yeah. I agree with you though.
It rhymes with resident. So people who are narcissists themselves don't like whenever another competent being with all of the abilities to push against everything that resists them. They don't like that. They don't like that either.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things.
Here you get demonetized.
I'm not
joking.
monetized.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
You hear that all the time on podcasts.
Well, yeah, it's getting better. So,
yeah.
It's getting better. But so anyway, there's that. Let's talk about what you want to talk about now, because we've kind of gone over a lot of the basics, and there are going to be things that we will address as we discuss more specifics. But I want to get more in line with, like, what are your goals? Do we want to work right into, like, let's teach some exercises, or some manner situations with different, like, problem solving?
So here's the thing: just by having the lesson from yesterday, I've changed everything, and I'm already seeing night and day differences. So when I come home, before we had, she would jump up, but she would be crazy for 2 hours, and it's like, okay, I would just keep, because it's playtime, right?
Right.
But now that we've had these lessons, look at it.
Right. So and don't take this personally, but that's because she was leading you.
Right. Exactly.
Right. As you said, oh, there's a dog, and I want to be loving to a dog.
Right.
And so therefore, that was very
It's
important.
a puppy.
That was very important to you, because you're a human being with a
heart.
soul and a heart and everything. But we also have to keep in mind that we have nice and kind.
Right.
Two different things. Nice is a 4-letter word. Kind is not, despite the fact that it is.
Yeah.
But in my book, being nice is not something you ever want to be. Being kind is. Kind means that I'm doing what's best for you. Nice means I'm giving you what you want.
Right.
Right. And that's a short version.
Difference between a yes man and
so
someone.
when you come in the door and she says, "Oh my God, it's playtime," don't argue with me.
Right.
And you go, "Oh, I guess it's playtime," and then you go after it. Then that's you letting her lead. When you come in and said, "You don't get to tell me it's playtime."
Yeah.
She goes, "Oh." Everything's like, okay, well, this overwhelming emotion, I need to get in control of that for a quick second. Everything, and you let her get in control of it, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, now we can play. Right? Now we can play, because I will instigate it and everything, and then she becomes a very normal, stable dog.
That was like last night we did the same thing.
Simple
So
as that.
before bed, I was like, okay, we can play now. Play a little bit, but then it was time to go to bed,
Right.
and she went right to bed, so it was nice. I mean, honestly, what you've taught me, it's changed so much that, like, honestly, it's addressing the problems that we've had. So
and it will, because that framework works for absolutely everything.
Right.
Everything to do with dogs. But we go through the specifics. Like, we go through. First of all, how's the crate training?
Great. I haven't put her in there yet.
You haven't ever put her in a crate?
Since
we
we've
need
met.
to do that then.
I mean, I put her in the crate since I've had her. Yes, I have. But since
Okay.
since last
But
night,
she's fine with the crate.
She's fine with the crate. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Crate
fine.
doesn't bother. if
Generally,
if I'm
dogs
in the
like
other
that.
room and she's sitting in the cage, about 25-30 minutes I start to hear her whine.
Okay.
But that's because that's because I put her in there because she didn't understand what she did.
Well, remember, crates is not because of anything.
Correct.
Crate is it's just crate.
So now
so
we
it is
switched.
just a scenario. It's like it'd be like me sitting. It'd be like her sitting here on the couch, going, "I wonder why I'm on the couch." Like, no, you're just on the couch.
Right.
That's all it is. So that's the same thing with the crate. So you don't want to attach you want to get out of that mindset of attaching meaning to the crate.
Correct.
Now, what she is saying is, I would like to not be.
Right. Exactly.
I would like to be with you. Right? I want attention. I
Uh-huh.
want camaraderie. I want whatever that happens to be. Now, you'll have two different reasons for kennel whining. And they are two opposite reasons, and they are absolutely the opposite approaches to fixing them.
Okay.
If you take the wrong approach, you'll make it worse with the wrong answer.
Okay.
Right? So the first reason is because I'm scared, and I need
attention.
well,
I need
no,
love.
no. The other one is I need attention. The one is I'm scared, right?
Okay.
So these are two opposite things. Now, if the dog needs attention, generally, any attention will do.
Mhm.
Good, bad, or indifferent. So if you correct a dog that is being an attention hog from the kennel, it's like, hey, pay attention to me. Hey. You know,
Right.
like your mother's a whore. You know?
Right.
Like,
It's
did
a
that
kid-
piss you off? How was that
It's a
fun?
kid
You know?
locked in his
Yeah,
room.
it's,
Right,
it's
yeah.
that bratty, like, I can make you do things type of mentality. Is like, even if getting a rise out of you, even pissing you off, makes me feel happy because at least I'm interacting with you in some way,
Yeah.
and I get a reaction. If you have that dog that is an attention seeker out of confidence, then you absolutely blank face ignore it and do not let it work.
Yeah. Don't
Do not
give
let it work, and don't even correct them, because then if you correct them and everything, then they'll be like, okay, cool, got that
You
done.
got
I'm
what
gonna
you
do
want.
it again and again
Right.
and again and again because I'm freaking bored and I
Right.
want interaction. Now, if you have a dog that is scared, this is what people hate. If you have a dog that is having anxiety in the kennel, like there's a bar graph of anxiety and it's going along and everything, and they're just
It's
getting a
getting
little
worse,
bit
worse,
more
worse, right.
and a little bit more as time goes on. Your job to fix that is to cause them more anxiety
Okay.
acutely.
Okay.
So, if I have a dog that's really, really anxious in the kennel, irrationally anxious, my job is to make sure that they understand that it's irrationally anxious. Because if it's legitimately anxious and everything, I don't want to change that. The dog's really actually nervous about the fact that this person that just came in my house is a creep. And
Right.
they're
It's-
not
it's
trustworthy and
giving you
everything.
this-
I don't want to correct them for being anxious. It's like,
Right.
no,
You
you're
did your job.
reading that right. You're a good dog, right? And so, and I'm gonna let Billy Bob over there, keep his distance because my Mastiff feels weird about him.
Yeah.
And that's great. But if the dog is being anxious over something that is completely wrong, like just like sliding across the thing and hitting the door,
Right.
I think that dog was fine.
Yeah.
But the woman screamed about it and made a big deal about it, and so the dog goes, "Oh, okay, I guess this is a big deal," and then it's cemented in their brain.
Right.
Because pain and fear and everything cements in your
It's all
brain.
in the same spot.
So, whatever happens before pain and fear and all of these unpleasant things, where your amygdala fires, which is your fear center in your brain, whatever happened right before that gets locked in. And whatever lesson is to take out of it cements 10 times better than positive.
Yeah.
So for every negative of a certain magnitude, you really want to kind of have 10 positives for a certain magnitude in order to balance out for the average dog. But so if her scale is slowly rising in anxiety, one way to fix that is just like with a drug. If you take a drug and it makes you go happy all of a sudden, what happens afterwards when the drug wears
You
off?
crash.
And you're way lower than you were. Same thing with anxiety. If you go with anxiety and you're rising, and you're basically like pacing and panting and making yourself more anxious, and all of a sudden something gives you a real legitimate reason to be anxious in a moment
Yeah.
for a very short period of time, you'll be like, whoa! And you'll be like, oh, that freaked me out.
Yeah.
Everything, and now all of a sudden, you get a jump start and everything. You actually get calmer after the jump startle.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Right. It's because your gauge goes and pinged, and then it dropped below average. And so what you're doing is you're snapping them out of and resetting that thing.
Gotcha.
It's like if somebody's being crazy and everything, pat them on the back real hard and everything, kind of jar them loose and everything. They're like,
Right.
oh, okay.
Kind of settles things.
Let me get out of that state of mind. So when we do those corrections, what we're doing is we're breaking an unhealthy state of mind. It's not that we're trying to punish the dog for being obnoxious, though. If that was the reason, it's still going to work just as well.
Right.
But that will do it because you want the stresses that your dog feels to be acute, sharp, and quick relief, and not slow and long standing.
Gotcha.
Stress from working out, very healthy for you. Stress from 2 years worth of back taxes,
Not good
kills
for
you.
Right. Yeah.
It causes you to have cancer. You know, like
Exactly. That's what causes gray hair. Right.
right. It's so that's a good lesson to know about the kennel. We just go over it. It will apply on other things. If the
Right.
dog is on a walk and they're just like, quit it.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if the dog is just like, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, and everything, you might still correct them. But especially if they're just like, hey, 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 hey. Leave it. You know, like
Makes
if it's I'm trying to screw with you to get a reaction, don't give them a reaction.
Yeah.
Right. So those are two different approaches to the same conversation, and it depends on which one you're dealing with.
Right.
You got to kind of read it in the moment, but
Makes sense.
it'll
It'll come to you when you'll know.
You'll do just fine.
So one thing we could work on is lay down.
Yeah,
making her lay down. She knows sit very well.
Right. So
getting laid down would be something.
when teaching an exercise, again, the idea is if we're teaching a task, like an actual move, an action for them to do, we use which reward?
Verbal. Verbal and treats.
Food. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's between food and petting most of the time is what we're dealing with. So but the food one is the one that matters because it causes the dopamine, which makes you want to do actions.
Exactly.
It helps your brain. It's like Miracle Grow for the remembering portion of your brain. It's actually a memory chemical that helps them to remember what it is that produced the food.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's just a survival.
Yeah. I
Well,
got training treats.
Yeah, but we use that quickly. Now, if the dog doesn't want to do it, what do we need to have in place? Like, if she decides that she doesn't want to come over here and lay down for me, what do we need? What do we need to make sure that we don't ask her and then she refuses?
A leash. A leash. Oh, that's right.
Right. So we want to have
I'll get a leash.
we want to have control.
I'll give you these.
That's cool. We want to have control first, so that if she doesn't understand or she gets nervous or anything like that, we can prevent it from going completely south.
What are you doing? What are you doing, Sugar Pie? You're a beautiful girl. Yes, you are. You're a nice girl. Yes, you are.
Here's for the
I got some nice tricks to do that. So we're gonna do around the neck.
Okay.
Right? Now,
Not clipping in.
huh?
Not clipping in.
If you want to, we have to make sure that this thing is
tighter.
and it also is not going to slip.
Makes sense.
So,
Let's figure it
tell
out.
you what, I'm actually going to walk you for a second. I'm going to go grab that mine. Just because mine are rounder.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's a leather thing anyway. Down. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl.
There it is.
Good girl.
Leashes can be any length. Like I said, I
Very true.
I got 30 footers, and I've given out 20 footers, and I've used four or five footers.
Down.
And those ones. So when she jumps on and you back up like this, you're giving to her. So the dog.
So stay, do the push.
If a dog does, you hold your ground
And do the push.
and push away.
Not step and
They-
push.
You always want your dog to give space to you, not the other way around.
Gotcha.
That's why if I walk, I very often will walk past the dog and I move through.
Yeah.
She needs to give space to me in
She
order
needs
for
to recognize
and
that.
And when we start walking, a lot of times what I'll do is I will keep moving in her direction until she starts giving space. If she tries to get away from me, I move away. If she tries to be in the way, I move through her or into her direction until I get a nice little walk like this, right? So she starts paying attention to where I'm at. Nope. Good girl. Nope. So that nope, this is actually where I teach the nope with most dogs. Is I teach it, good girl. See how she slowed down at the same pace that I slowed down?
Yeah, she's
Right?
recognizing it.
And the reason she understands that she needs to be paying attention to my movement is because we don't have much of a leash.
Right, it's a short leash.
Right? And so every time that she doesn't pay attention, it ends up poorly for her.
Right.
Not in any bad way, but she tries to go
She's
one
doing
direction
her
and
job,
it
right.
doesn't work out. You know? So therefore, the only thing that works out is staying close to me.
Yeah.
And I actually become a little bit of a punk ass while I'm doing the walking at the very beginning. And it's basically whatever it is that you want, I'm going to do the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what causes the opposite until she gives in, which you can see how quickly that happened.
Yeah. She's a smart
That
dog.
she gives, well, every dog does it.
Right.
There are some dogs that might take 10 minutes, but that's about the end of it.
Right.
Right? And you can teach almost any dog to walk in just a few minutes
Oh yeah.
on a leash, because, and the idea is that we say with our body this message of the only person who decides where we're going is me.
Yeah.
The only person who, wherever it is that you want to go, that's not where we're going unless I'm leading us there.
Yeah.
It's always, I'm leading us there, you follow me. Right? And so that's what we're trying to say with our body. You see? You notice I said good, then moved.
Yes.
It's good, then
Then
action.
move. No
No,
treat.
then correction. Good, then treat. Right? It's always word first, then action, because dogs open their nose first. It's open when they're born, then their eyes, then their ears. Right? So the brain prioritizes in that order.
Yeah.
What is smelt by them is the most real. It's the truest of things.
Yeah.
What they see is the next truest of things, and then what they hear is the least truest of things. So if
It's
I
like,
want,
like when the rabbit's in the yard and they're following the scent of the rabbit, even though the rabbit's 10 feet in front of them, they're not, and they see it, they're still going to trust the trail before they run up.
and even if they couldn't see it, and when that blind pit bull that was
Yeah.
at the house that I worked with and everything, they'll know that the rabbit's there, and it's not a question.
Right.
Because what's in
They
your
see it.
nose is real. So, that being said, what we want to do is if we say the word first, that's the first thing that they hear, and then we prove that it's real with better senses.
Yeah.
But if we start with our movement and I go, good, then that good means nothing because they were already getting the treat and there's no reason to take in the extra information.
Right.
So, now what I want to do is I want to give the word, then I want to help them out in whatever way is necessary to get them to lay down. And I have some tricks. So number one, whenever I hold a treat, very often I hold it like this, right? Because I have this shield. They know that the treat's in there because they can smell it.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
She can tell that there's a treat in there, but she can't have it
until she does whatever it is that gets it. So I can get her all worked up about it.
Yeah.
Right? See how you can see it.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm gonna
How
say,
the hell do I get
I'm
this?
gonna say down, and then I'm gonna you can do that. I'm gonna say down, and then I'm gonna do whatever is encouraging it down. But I'm not getting all stirred up about it. I can take my time, and then she keeps working at it, keeps working at it, keeps working at it. If she gives up, I'm gonna give her a little bit more help. Down. And you see how I'm kind of making my hand in such a way that she has to get up underneath it.
Underneath it, right.
Down. But then it's just a matter of patience.
So
I've said it. It must be done now.
Right.
Right.
So what I was doing before was going from trying to make her sit first and then lay down. That's not the way to do it. Make her lay down first.
Yes, you can do it
And
that way.
then once she reacts to going to lay down, then work in the movement of it. Of okay, sit first, then lay down.
You can do it that way, but I prefer not to generally. Is because I want the dog to down. Good. I want the dog to down no matter which point I'm in.
Right.
Right. I want down to have its.
Well,
own
obviously,
beat.
what I was doing wasn't working, so that's why. Yeah.
So now I forced her into a down, relatively gently, but I did it for her.
Yeah.
And then whenever she got down there, even though I did it, I still rewarded her.
Yeah.
Ready? So down. Now I'm gonna follow through with this no matter what. Come on, down. Until I get what I want. Good. Free. Good girl. Now whenever I teach an exercise, I free immediately because eventually we want to teach all these exercises to be static
Yeah.
Means if I tell you to sit, it means sit and stay.
Yeah.
And it always means sit and stay. It's never not sit and stay. So I need to behave that way.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes
And so I start from the very beginning. Every command is a stay automatically from the beginning. But in order for that to be the case, without me screwing it up for the dog, when they can't keep up with it yet, is I free them up immediately. And they keep getting this repetition of, I keep hearing this word free. I don't know what it means yet, but I hear it. They'll tell me to do something, they'll give me a food, then they say free. Doesn't matter a bunch because it's after my food,
Right.
but it does keep happening. And then one of these days I'm not going to say free, and the dog's going to move, and I'm going to say no. And I'm going to correct them once.
Right.
I'm going to put them back down, and then they're going to be like, why did you do that? They're going to be like, the only thing I can think of is he always says this free word, and he didn't say it this time, and this time I got reprimanded.
He didn't say it, right.
Because he didn't say it. So the next time I'm going to try, I'm going to wait for him to say free, and then I'll give it like 3 seconds. And if they hold for that 3 seconds, I'm going to free him up, and then they're going to be like, got it.
Got it. Makes
Boom.
sense.
One correction, saving 10,000 corrections if you try to do it the opposite
Right.
way. And everything because I did the work ahead of time by freeing them up every time I gave them a command from the beginning. Because they're like, something's got to be up with this word, but I ain't figured it out yet, so I'm not going to bother
Right.
myself. And then whenever they actually have the information to figure it out, then
Makes sense.
so down. Down. So we just follow it back through. But this is a matter of stubbornness in this situation. And yes, she does feel a little bit intimidated, but not that much.
Okay.
Not that much. Good. Good girl, free.
Yeah, that's a good girl.
And then you can add any amount. It's like, okay, you did what I want, even though I kind of did it for you. So now I'm going to pet you because I love you, because what she wants is my attention and my affection and my approval and all that stuff. And I'm kind of doing this domineering thing a little bit. Down. Now, after she really has an idea about it, I'm going to start giving her more of an option and see if I can get her to just do it, because she's feeling a lot better. Down. But never does she get the treat unless she does it right.
Right.
Down. Down. It's okay that she's not getting it right. I'm going to get it before we're done.
Right.
And if it means that I have to stop and make her do it again, down. It's a little hard sometimes with these shorter dogs. Down.
Yeah. You gotta bend over.
Down. Sometimes you can even down. You use the leash.
Yeah.
As you just step on it in order to keep it from being too long. Because what I don't want her to do is I don't want her to move away from it. Down. Oh, down. Nope. Down. I want her to keep getting closer. Down. Good girl. Wait. Wait.
That's a good girl. You did it.
And so with a few repetitions of this, and honestly, you probably have a look. That's how you fix jumping too. You notice I'm standing on the leash, she jumped up and she hit the end of it. Really perfect where the dog corrected themselves. So if it gets to that point and you want to do an exercise like that, whereas like you sit there and like I don't want her to.
With my sister is the jumping with her because she does too. She does that on the most.
So I would just.
Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? No. What are you doing?
Good girl. Right? You see,
Yeah.
three questions. I said, what are you going to do whenever I get all excited with you? And everything, she jumped. And nope, that was the wrong answer. What are you going to do when I get all excited with you? She jumped. She's like, nope, that's the wrong answer. What are you going to do when I get excited? She's like, well, I'm not going to jump again because that's stupid. And everything, and she does it. And then she doesn't do it. And then I'm like, yeah, you're a good dog. Yes, you are. You're a good girl. Sit. Good. Down. Nope, down. 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 Good. Wait, good girl. Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes you can, this is baby, control and motion.
Yeah, we did a lot of that for her as a pup was, you know, baiting before trying to sit.
Down. Down. Nope. Down. Down. When you get to this point where it's this close to the ground, down. This is really just stubbornness after this. No, down. Lay down. She's just like, don't effing want to.
Yeah, stand up.
Yeah. Down.
Okay. We're gonna win this stand up.
Good.
Good.
Did you see the timing?
Yeah.
Good girl. I should have freaked you out. That was bad. I'm rusty. That's fine.
But so the idea is like the instant that the criteria has been met, and the criteria for a down is all 4 points have to be down.
Correct.
All 4 legs. And so once you get to that point, then that's it.
Yeah.
You're done. You've gotten that thing, and so the reward should, in order for maximum effect, the reward should be right there.
Yeah.
So with downs, you know, it's like downward pressure, putting some pressure on the body. Down. Down. Good girl.
Good girl.
Free.
Good
And then
girl.
what you want to do, free them up immediately so that they don't feel locked in that position or pressured or held or any of that. Is we want to turn it into a little bit more of a game of like, I'm going to get you there because I must get you there, because if I'm asking you to do it and I can't teach you, then I'm not going to follow through with what I say. That's obedience. It's me following through as the owner.
Yeah.
Not the dog. It
Makes
doesn't have
sense.
anything to do with the dog. The dog is just the vessel for me to practice my
obedience.
leadership skills.
Okay.
Right? And if I am a good leader, people will follow me well. If I'm not a good leader, people will not follow me well, and it doesn't really matter which people.
Yeah.
Right? Good girl.
Good girl.
Good girl. Free. Sit. Good girl. Down.
You want me to get a couple more trees?
That's fine. Sometimes I'll even down. Down. Good girl. Yeah.
Having her, you know, jumps on you, that's always a.
So, we create the situation. Anyway, the down is one thing, and the down is really the biggest trust exercise. Whenever you got a dog that doesn't want to down and they're downing, you want to have as much rapport already with the dog. And I don't have that much with her, and so it's generally not the right thing to spend a ton of time on right off
But
the
it's
bat.
introduction.
But I want to show you one more thing.
Yeah.
Because we've done a little bit of walking. You know, and the walking goes, like, if I decide to walk in one direction, that's the direction we're walking. And if she decides to go a different way, I don't care. I just keep going.
Yeah.
Right? Then the next thing is we want to make sure that she minds barriers like a door. Right? You want to go outside? Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to claim this door, which is exactly like I did with the tissues and the dog and any of those other things. I claim the door by putting myself between. I focus on her because she's the one I'm talking to. She's the one I'm communicating to. This thing is mine, even though it's just a space.
Right.
The door is mine, and it should be treated with respect. And if she gives the door space, the respect that she's giving me, then we have it.
Stick
So
very good.
the stick is just an extension of me, so it doesn't really matter that much. It's just for illustration purposes mostly, and to extend my reach. But if I want to go through the door, she needs to wait until I go through the door, right? And so we practice this sort of thing. We'll have the door, and if she pushes towards it, I step in and say no. And eventually we can get to the point where if I'm doing my job properly, I should not even have to be holding onto the leash or anything like that. If she tries to go, I'll just be like, no. And then I'll discourage her a little bit until I'm ready for her to go through. And then I'll say, all right, come on. You see how she started?
Yeah.
Because I started to move. Right? She's following the body language. So, I don't want to get too hung up on that.
No, that's good.
But when they go through a door, human goes through first. Unless you are releasing them. So like backyard to go potty, because that's our routine, can have its own special rule, that's fine. But anytime you're going to the outside world and everything, the dog follows you there and does not lead you. So if she comes to the door, she's like, yes, walk, walk time, it's walk time,
Right.
walk time, walk time, walk time. It's like, settle.
Right.
That is unreasonable energy. We don't put up with that. You correct bad energy.
Yes.
That's okay to do. It's necessary to do. And then, as soon as she calms down, we can go.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that is a good,
That's a good exercise.
that's a good thing to do. I mean, like, honestly, that's the biggest thing that I teach people to do with dominance with the dogs is like, if you can control the door and their food bowl and whatever it is that they want to harass that they're not supposed to harass, if you get those things under control and everything, then that's your dog now.
Yeah.
You have them.
Well, we
It's
started
not a
from day
big,
one.
domineering, awful approach. It's just a little bit of like, this is what you want. Control your emotions. Show me you can do that, and then I'll let you have it.
Yeah.
And if you're controlling the resource, you're the dominant one. Plain and simple.
Yeah, so when we fed her as a from the start, we made her sit before we put the food down, and then when she put the food down, she'd sit, we'd say good girl, put the food down, she would start eating, I would then take the food away, she would then sit again, I'd take pet her, good girl, put the food back down, but what we do is we touch her while she ate so she wouldn't become possessive of the food because she was, as coming from the spot she was coming in, she was competing for food, she was starving, so she was in a litter of puppies and that, you know, a couple of them were fat, a lot of them were starving.
Quite
so.
literally what I would do if somebody says that my dog bites my kids whenever they feed. That would be a big portion of my approach. So I'm gonna have to cut it off.
That's fine. No,
for today,
thank you. I appreciate
and
it.
then we'll be back tomorrow
Yes.
and polish everything up.
Awesome.
But,
Cool.
and I know
I'm
the
gonna find
video-
some more situations and stuff that we can think of for tomorrow.
The video is going to be more auditory than